a petition for justice in Ontario. Because what I actually did, because when I read this, I knew that this is the complete removal of everyone's rights. Because when you go to a lawyer, you're expecting him to be competent, you're expecting him to know and understand the law, aren't you? So I emailed the Prime Minister's office, the Premier's office, the federal and the provincial Attorney Generals. I got auto-responses from Kathleen Wynne, and the Attorney General at the provincial level's office sent me an email referring me to the Law Society of Upper Canada. I had to send back an email to the Attorney General's office explaining to the Attorney General's office that the Attorney General is the head of the Law Society of Upper Canada. I haven't heard anything back yet from any of them. And I'm going to be pretty snarky with the Conservative Party right now, because I contacted Sylvia Jones, who is the critic for the Attorney General's office of this province. And so I asked her, I explained to her the situation, because to me this is a systemic situation, and this is the denial of justice. I got an email back from Sylvia Jones' office saying, well, what piece of legislation are you referring to? So needless to say, I emailed back her office and I said, Sylvia, I said, you are the critic of the Attorney General's office. I'm thinking perhaps you can give your little head a shake and contact the Ministry of Education, because these are both federal, provincial matters, and do something about this problem. I haven't heard anything back yet. I most certainly hope, at least it was my hope, that when I contacted her, she would be more like Jack. Jack is very proactive. Jack's a good guy, you know.
You want to clean it now or later?
Jack, you're driving to New Brunswick? Thank you. By the way, so Tom was talking about the People's Alliance Party in New Brunswick. Can you imagine a political party coming to the forefront to protect private property rights? So much so that before they contacted us, they were trying to implement a property owner's bill of rights to protect the private property owners in New Brunswick. Can you imagine? What a concept, eh? So they contacted us, and I've spent a month and a half going back and forth with them. And actually, I was contacted by a fellow who is the equivalent of a warden of a county. They're all very, very concerned, because it seems that the government of New Brunswick is actually hiring people from Ontario to assist them in writing policy. So you can imagine the disaster that's going to be. So anyways, they contacted me, and for the last month and a half, I have been sending emails and information, and actually these candidates, they purchased my book so they would have a better understanding, because we already have property rights guaranteed under our Constitution, and that would be the British North America Act. And Jean-Serge, you ever do a charter challenge again, and I'm going to slap your head. The charter is not worth the paper it's written on. As he said, there's the notwithstanding clause, section 33, and there's section 1. Not necessarily my words. McGill University did a document on it in 1985, saying that property rights in Canada, because they aren't enshrined in the charter, are protected by pre-charter documents. I got the paper. And those pre-charter documents, the preamble of the British North America Act states that the 3 provinces are going to be united into one dominion. And then that dominion is going to be divided into the 4 original provinces. And that we are to have a constitution based on the Constitution, the same principles as the United Kingdom. So that's Magna Carta. That's the Petition of Rights. That's the Bill of Rights. That's the Agreement of the People from 1649. That is the Nullum Tempest Act, or the long term for it is to quiet the subjects from all pretense of concealment whatsoever, which limited the Crown prerogative for 60 years. That's also Section 3 of the Real Properties Limitations Act today. So, it is a number of different acts, but it's mainly Magna Carta. So, government will tell you that Magna Carta doesn't stand anymore. Magna Carta is alive and well and living in the United Kingdom as of this day. I checked it out. It's still on their books. Not only that, Magna Carta is letters patent. And on top of that, bureaucrats are now telling people that Magna Carta does not exist in Canada anymore. Why? Because that warden in New Brunswick, he went and asked one of the bureaucrats, and this is what the bureaucrat said. He said, Magna Carta doesn't exist. We can plan and zone for everybody. Well, I explained to this guy, well, you might want to actually tell him to look at the court case from 2012 where the province of New Brunswick actually used Magna Carta to support themselves in the courts. Yeah. The province of Ontario used it just last year, along with the 1731 language in the Courts Act to support its authority as an intervener in a court case. So if Magna Carta is not alive and well and living in Canada, somebody better tell those lawyers and judges. You do have private property rights. They are guaranteed. And if we didn't, well, we wouldn't have an Expropriations Act either, would we? And when it comes to regulatory land taking, there's no such thing as regulatory land taking without full and just and fair compensation. That was settled in 1920 with De Keyser's Royal Hotel. So I'm getting a little off topic here, but I wanted to set that groundwork, that foundation for you. Because under Section 3 of the Municipal Act, the municipalities may enter into agreements directly with the federal government. That coincides actually with the Planning Act, believe it or not. Then there is Sections 4 and 5. Section 5 is their authority, which actually refers you to Section 9 of the Municipal Act. Because Section 9 clearly states that the municipalities are to have the same rights, privileges, authorities, and powers as a natural person. Now this all comes before their bylaw making power. This is to explain their limited authority, so that they fully understand what their authority is. And then Section 8, this is the fun one. It says that they, can do all these bylaws and everything else to, do whatever it needs to do for its affairs. And everything boils down to the verbiage in these things. Because its is possessive, meaning belonging to that corporation. So it is the affairs that are part and parcel of running this business. And that's what municipalities are. They're a non-profit business. So then you get into Section 9, like I said, same rights, privileges, authorities, and powers as a natural person. Section 10 is lower tier municipalities, and this is their bylaw. Subsection 2, bylaws. What no one is reading is Part 4 of Subsection 2, which states they may pass bylaws to acquire assets, to exercise their authority under the Municipal Act or any other act. What's a municipal asset? I would suggest they go and read Regulation 599/06, because that is land, equipment, or other goods. It's the same deal under Section 11, Subsection 2, bylaws, Part 4. Then when you get into Sections 11, Subsection 6, 7, and 8, that explains they can't interfere with anyone's business or contracts unless that business is doing business with the municipal corporation. So all these smoking bylaws that they're trying to cram down everybody's throat years ago, all those smoking bylaws were only applicable to public works buildings, libraries, the town hall. They weren't applicable to anyone else's private business. And if you're looking for licensing and so on and so forth, every municipal councillor should be pulling out section 92 of the BNA, because 92.9 tells them that they can only license for saloons, taverns, and auctioneers. The other licenses mean that it has to be in conjunction with those other entities. Not every business in the world, and it does not grant them regulatory authority over private business. This is the problem. No one knows the Constitution. No one is reading the Municipal Act. No one's reading the building code. The building code is 1,853 pages. So why is anybody in this room? That's because of regulation. Why is anybody in this room applying for a permit to put a pool in their backyard? The definition of an outdoor pool in the building code is a public pool that is not indoors. Why? Because no one is reading it. All the municipalities think that they can create property standards bylaws for private property under section 15.1 to 15.8 of the building code. They cannot. 15.1 to 15.8 of the building code is limited by sections 1.1 and 1.2 of the building code. How do I know this? I've already taken on municipal affairs indirectly. And on top of that, they have to go down to section 35, which says municipal bylaws, which refers them, I think, to section 3 and section 10, which involves sewer and water. Section 23 of the Municipal Act tells them that they may enter into agreements for communal wells and streets with private property owners. Absolutely nothing about individual wells. The D55, what the municipality or the city of Ottawa is doing with D55 has already been settled. The Ministry of the Environment and Ontario Water Resources documents clearly state D55 is only for communal wells, not individual private wells. So the planners are doing indirectly what they can't do directly, and that means that they are committing fraud. And that is also settled law. Settled law, Tom asked me to explain last night, is something that's already been determined in the courts as being illegal.